After installing the new firmware, I reset the LEDs to match the new instructions. And I use the same camcorder that comes with the kit when you buy it all from SoloShot. We did everything we could to keep the conditions and equipment like they were in the first test. And that includes a centering object that was over 200 feet out. And I used the same Hangar 9 Super Cub. This plane now has a slightly smaller propeller on it, so that slows it just a little bit and takes just a little bit of vertical performance away, which should benefit the SoloShot. And the vertical tracking does seem to be a bit better. It missed a little bit of that snap, but it's a lot better than it was before. Here it's letting these rolls get near the top of the frame and keeps it there pretty consistently, where before it was going off the top of the frame. Overall, the tracking does seem to be a little better, though it does tend to get a little behind when you make a turn. But even then, in many of the cases, it is keeping the plane in the frame. But pull it up into even a general loop, and it goes right out the top of the frame, and when it comes down, even though there's no power on, it goes right out the bottom of the frame. Keep in mind that this is a big, relatively slow airplane. Here with the plane at full speed, the horizontal tracking remains pretty good. The plane stays near the center of the frame. But if you make a turn that is at all abrupt, even though this isn't a fast plane, it tends to go out the edge of the frame, and then it catches up with it again. And we still seem to have a vertical limit to the tilting. Held in a knife edge figure 8, the plane is staying pretty much at the same altitude, but it's going farther away and coming closer to the camera. And you can see it stays at the top of the frame or goes out, and it never catches up with the plane. After we finished recording, I manually tilted the camera as far as it would go using the arrow keys, and it goes a lot farther than it is here. It's not running out of mechanical tilt capability. This appears to be a problem that comes from something in the way that tracks the model. And I don't know if this means anything, but when the plane descends for a landing, it goes off the bottom of the screen, and it stays there for a long time until the model's nearly on the ground. You'll see when it catches up to the plane again, it's already made the turn, it's coming down to the runway. There's very little speed here, the plane's at idle with the flaps down, and it's a pretty gentle descent, yet it took all this time to catch up with it. Once it gets it back in the frame, it does a good job of keeping it centered. On this takeoff, I added a roll that dramatically slows the climb out, and that helped the SoloShot track the plane pretty well. This is a downwind turn and a pretty good gust that happened faster than I meant, but the tracking wasn't bad at all, and you can see that the plane's moving right along and the tracking's staying pretty good. Here at about half throttle, we'll fly some figure 8s, and you can see that the tracking isn't bad at all, even with the turns. The zoom and the tracking seem to be working pretty well. Here I took the plane out farther and did a loop which should dramatically reduce the amount of angle the SoloShot needs to go through, and again it lost it going up and coming back down. I repeated the same thing in about that same area, if not a little farther out, and had the same results every time. And just to be sure, I brought it in closer and did a slow loop there too, and had the same results again. You pull it up, it goes right up out of the frame, and it falls back in, goes out the bottom. We have to keep in mind that in the RC world, this is a big, slow airplane. Most of the planes that people are going to want to record are going to have more pure speed and vertical capabilities. If they can expand the vertical envelope and increase the vertical tracking speed, we just might have something here. That's all I think the SoloShot is really lacking now. As it is right now, I still need a human cameraman to make sure we get all of the action. But with this updated firmware, we are getting more usable footage.